Hello and welcome to More to Explore, where Mike and I keep you up to date with everything happening here on explore.org. Thank you everyone for joining us. We got Jack DeBoer 2637 saying what's up, Jen Lat 38 hello, CL Robin MWMI4, and everyone else joining us today. We've got a packed show and we're talking about our winter athletes as we're wrapping up the Winter Olympics. We've got Egg Watch. We're going to learn what an aardwolf is, and of course get a first look at one of our newest bonobos cam that just launched this morning. So my name is Brian Bird. I'll be hitting all the buttons behind the scenes today. And to help us learn more about the wildlife that we see on the cams, I am joined by explore.org's resident naturalist, Mike Fitz. Mike, good morning.
Hi, Brian. Glad to be here, and good day to everybody, no matter where you happen to be around the world. And if you're new to explore.org, of course, welcome to the community, and welcome back to all of our longtime viewers. We are the world's largest live nature cam network with about 200 cameras all over the world. And the winter has been on the minds of many of us recently, not just because we're still experiencing it in much of North America. I know, like right now, the East Coast is getting hammered pretty hard by a nor'easter and a blizzard. In fact, Brian, if you want to see what that blizzard is like after the program, check out the gray seal cams, because I just turned that on right before the program, and it's just a raging storm out there on Seal Island right now. But a lot of us were watching the Winter Olympics recently, and looking at the events and the skills of the athletes in the Winter Olympics. It's clear to me that there are many people who thrive in the cold. So we begin our program today by looking at a few non-human winter athletes. Winter means different things for different species, depending on who you are and your adaptations. Winter represents a new beginning, or a season to endure, or a season to thrive within. Now, I'm no Olympian, but humans are special for our adaptability. One of the keys to our success as a species is our ability to enhance our athleticism with tools and clothing that allow us to adapt to different environmental conditions. Consider the skis that we use to float over snow, or the skates that we use to glide, stop, and turn on glare ice. Non-human animals are athletes in their own ways, but they must also utilize their ingrained adaptations to survive nature's challenging conditions. So right now, we're looking at footage of from our cameras at the International Wolf Center in Ely, Minnesota. And this is one of the blended pack members at the International Wolf Center. This is one of their ambassador wolves. I think, Brian, you may know the wolves better than I do here. I think this is Rika. Is that right?
I believe so.
And yeah, so Rika doing one of the things that a lot of elite athletes do commonly, and that's rest. And when you're working hard, you got to rest hard, and that's what wolves do. We know that from our dogs too, right? But wolves are a species that are built for the cold. Wolves have lanky legs, big feet. They're great for running over snow, but this also exposes a lot of their body to the cold. A wolf in winter almost always has cold feet, but it probably never has frostbite because of the way that their legs circulate heat and prevent cold injury. Countercurrent exchange is a mechanism that many animals use to retain heat moving through their limbs. The outgoing arteries and the incoming veins in wolves are arranged close together, so the outflowing warm blood going to the feet and lower legs that exchanges some of its heat with the inflowing colder blood coming back into the body. This is part of the way that they retain energy while preventing cold injury. They also keep their feet very cold overall. There was one study that I looked at that found in wolves that their feet are cold all the time. In very cold snow, the bottom of their feet maybe is kept at just a degree or so above the freezing point of water. So very cold feet all the time in winter. They're fine with it though, because coupled with that countercurrent exchange and a few other adaptations, wolves can keep their legs and their feet functional under conditions that a human, we wouldn't be able to have, dexterity in our fingers or our feet, or a feeling in those limbs under those conditions. We need specialized clothing to protect our extremities. So their adaptations is just one example of specialization that allows an organism to thrive under challenging conditions. I have some other examples of winter adapted non-human athletes that I want to talk about, including one more tidbit about wolves. I'm curious though, if anyone in our audience has any examples that they can think of. If so, post those in the comments during the program. And as always, feel free to post your questions in the chat as well. But if you can think of any, examples of an animal that would do well in the Winter Olympics, we want to know.
Yeah, Mike, we're discussing if we could find animals, from our webcams that might do well in certain Olympic sport events, but it's tough because so many winter sports are sliding sports.
Yeah, it's not like the Summer Olympics where many of the events are based on like running or jumping or something like that, and there's a lot of animals that do really well with those skills. There's no animals that have like skis, for instance, right? So it's not quite, we can't, it's not a direct comparison, or maybe I'm just not imaginative enough. But there are a few animals that would do well under certain conditions in certain Olympic events. And one of the ones that I thought of, we don't get to see them a lot on the cameras. Every once in a while, we'll see them on one of our North American webcams, but we'll get to see, but a river otter, for instance, I think would be an animal that could do well in bobsled or luge or skeleton. And please excuse the summertime footage here. It's really kind of like the best that I had of some river otters in my local area. But this will show you what they look like, how their bodies are shaped and designed. They're really kind of elongated. So that helps them to reduce drag. They're also equipped with a muscular tail that provides stability and balance. They are also comfortable on snow and ice, as comfortable on snow and ice as they are in liquid water. And that's when I see evidence of otters most often in my area. It's in the tracks in winter. A couple of different examples here. My notebook on the right, that yellow notebook, it's about like 8 or 9 centimeters long, just to give you a sense of scale. So during the winter, the otters are moving through a lot of upland areas, more so than you would suspect. I mean, they're highly aquatic animals, but they'll go from like pond to pond, or they'll follow creek beds, or they'll jump from place to place practically by going over the snow. And when they do that, they love to slide. So that's kind of part of the ways that they're creating their tracks. They'll bound, but they'll also push themselves across snow or ice. And this is a different photo of mine that I took on the Naknek River in Alaska. And excuse it for being blurry. They were quite far away when I saw this trio of otters. But there were 2 otters flat against the ice in a controlled slide, and then one is kind of like bounding next to them. And I think maybe that'll help you envision how otters are creating these tracks in the snow. Otters are also quite playful, so they might even enjoy frolicking in a half tube of ice, such as like a bobsled course. It does look like fun. It also looks very dangerous, but it does look like fun at the same time. Brian, I've never been on a bobsled course. Have you seen
No, it sounds terrifyingly fun, but I have not.
Okay. Well, we should try it one day, and I think that'd be a lot of fun. But Brian, you also saw the footage of a dog who found his way onto the cross-country ski course at the Olympics recently.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else saw it, but I guess the dog's name was Nazgul and ran onto the track during the women's cross-country qualifier. And it was, I don't know, it was pretty awesome to see even the dog ran across the finish line. It was pretty great.
And one reason that dogs are such good companions for people is that they possess a great deal of endurance. And this brings me back to the athleticism of wolves. Wolves, dogs, they can keep pace with us when we are on foot, or even, of course, on at short distances or long distances, often at running speeds. And in certain breeds of the sled dogs might run themselves to exhaustion if their guardians didn't force them to take breaks every once in a while. So dogs, being direct descendants of wolves, So if any animal can keep up with a cross-country skier for an entire race, then I would be a wolf. Um, so I think that, just looking at an example of an animal that would do well in certain competitions, we can look at a wolf doing really well in endurance events right alongside us. And then there's another type of endurance that animals experience, and that endurance is an endurance of metabolism and physiology. Endurance is more than the ability to travel long distance and display large amounts of stamina. Endurance is also the ability to thrive under harsh conditions. Um, and we did have a couple of people throwing up some examples from our YouTube chat about muskox. MWMI4 wrote in and said muskox, maybe speed skating or something else with a short distance. And then Oso Negro wrote in, oh, yes, the muskox are often dancing, frisky, and jumping around. So maybe they would do well in one of those ice dancing competitions. I was actually thinking about muskox uh, before our program, though, for their overall ability to endure winter conditions. So the muskox and the reindeer at the University of Alaska Fairbanks at their large animal research station, I think are great examples of animals that are just built to endure cold. They're adapted for winter in many ways. They're big-bodied, so they don't cool down quickly. They're also good at saving energy by hunkering down to wait out the worst storms, and they grow an insulating undercoat known as kiviu, which is dense and warm, and it's so much so that it's collected by people in parts of the Arctic to make hats and gloves with. But consider that fur can only go so far in helping a mammal survive. Each warm-blooded animal species, including muskox, survive winter by utilizing many adaptations, not just one. So let's look past the fur of these animals and consider how their blood functions in the cold. Muscles, other body tissues need oxygen to function properly. The ability of human blood to transfer oxygen is temperature sensitive. If blood gets too cold, then it has a harder time unloading oxygen where it is needed. I've experienced this when my hands have been very cold. My muscle quickness and grip strength just disappears under those conditions. It's not a pleasant experience or sensation if you've ever felt it yourself. It can be hard to even do something simple like manipulate a tool or grab a key that's fallen in the snow. But the muskox, they don't necessarily have to worry about that. Their blood, in contrast to human blood, isn't as temperature sensitive. In fact, it can do really well in low temperatures. It can offload oxygen much more efficiently at low temperatures, even when their blood temperature drops to as low as 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which one laboratory study found it can release almost 1.5 times more oxygen than human blood at the same temperature. So again, I think, about how useful that adaptation would be for an animal like a muskox in their extremities, especially. Their blood also uses far less energy overall to release oxygen at low temperatures compared to human blood. Muskox, they keep their core body temperature the same as ours, and it remains high like that all year. But their cold adapted advantages of their blood, their fur, and everything else, that's really what allows them to thrive in these harsh Arctic environments. So they're thriving in the cold in part because of their blood adaptations. We can also look at reindeer and caribou and how they thrive in winter, so much so that wild caribou in Alaska, who are also lactating, actually gain weight during the coldest months of the year. So we commonly assume that animals, they build their fat stores before winter and don't accumulate fat during winter. A recent study, I think this came out late last year. It came from some researchers doing work in Southwest Alaska. They found that pregnant and lactating caribou consistently gained body fat between October and March. So again, this is the coldest time of the year. The days are the shortest at this time of the year. And this feat is probably the result of their diet, which consists mostly of lichens in winter. Lichens can be high energy foods if you are adapted to digest them. This is a species of Cladonia lichen. Cladonia is the genus. There's many different species of lichen within this genus, but it's commonly called reindeer lichen because caribou, reindeer love to eat it. They are ruminants like cows, so they use a specialized gut microbiome in their chambered stomach to extract energy from lichen. The tundra, the open woodlands, and parts of Southwest Alaska are pretty rich in lichen. So as long as you can access it, then the food is available for you. Certain animals, for them, winter is a time to thrive rather than merely survive. The muskox and the reindeer and the caribou show us how that can be done.
All right, Mike. And some animals are more freestyle in their physical athleticism. So, where could our roly-poly pandas fit into an Olympics event?
I wonder if they would be happy just rolling down a snowboard course or a ski course or something like that because they do seem to enjoy snow quite a bit. And we tend to consider the physical lives of animals and how they overcome challenges to survive. I think maybe more often than their mental lives. Most of what I talked about previously had to do with physical adaptations. Yet non-human animals, they're experiencing an inner mental life. Yeah, an animal needs to keep its mind active and engaged. That's just as important to their well-being and survival as access to healthy foods. So when we see pandas, frolicking this in the snow or just taking a tumble down a hillside, they're expressing fun and joy. Only it's at their own, bear pace, panda pace. So yeah, I think those are maybe some athletes that would do pretty well if they were just rolling down a hillside in the snow. I think every species possesses its own special athleticism, and no one would ever dare challenge a a panda to a bamboo eating contest, for example. They are just built for that. Nothing could compete with them in that competition. Polar bears, they are fantastic athletes as well, and they have a unique suite of adaptations that allow them to thrive through the coldest months of the year. And to learn more, I spoke with Elisa McCall, who is the director of science at Polar Bears International. And here's our conversation. Elisa, thanks for being here and great to talk with you again.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I always like chatting with you.
And I hope you've been enjoying the Winter Olympics. Or are there any sports you've been following closely?
Well, as a Canadian, watching the hockey team pretty closely, it's been super fun. Also curling, always entertaining, especially this Olympics, and just all the different sliding activities. There are just so many.
I do. I haven't been binge watching hockey like I normally do, and I do enjoy watching the cross country skiing as well. I think that those athletes are. I don't know how they ski for 50 kilometers and then sprint at the end, but they do it. So hats off to
They're
them.
amazing. Yeah.
But let's get back on track with what we're talking about. Polar bears. They are athletes in their own way, and they hunt on sea ice where friction between the bear and the ice can be minimal. So what adaptations allow them to maneuver so well on ice?
Yeah, polar bears have pretty special feet. They kind of have like built-in snowshoes. So their feet are really large, which gives them nice surface area and allows them to walk over surprisingly thin ice for their body size without breaking through. And they also have bumps on their feet called papillae, and it gives them a little bit of stickiness and grip on the ice. So we don't see them slipping and sliding as much as you might think. I have seen it happen before when a bear is sprinting on the ice that they can slip, but they really mostly have great grip. And in fact, winter tire companies have used the polar bear paw as an example of how to improve their tires on the ice.
And what do we know about their quickness and reflexes? How fast might polar bears be?
They're explosively fast. So they're no marathoners, they're no long distance winners, that's for sure. But sprinting, they are faster than the fastest human. So they have to be really ready to just attack a seal when they can, to jump and sprint and get that food. And so that predatory movement makes them incredibly quick. We always tell people never try to outrun or outpace a polar bear.
Human athletes, especially at the pro or elite levels, are opportunists. They succeed by, gaining advantage in the moments when it's best to do so. We see it every time you watch a sporting event. There's like maybe one defining moment where an athlete takes advantage of that split second or those few seconds, ends up, scoring a goal, winning the match, whatever it happens to be, winning the race. So along those lines, I think the mental skills of athletes, such as their ability to concentrate and focus and be ready for those moments that matter. Those things are, that mental skill is just as important as their physical skills. And I think polar bears might be like that too, because they have to concentrate on what they're doing. Like if they're sitting at a breathing hole for a seal, they have to concentrate and be ready to jump up at like a split second's notice in order to get their meal. And I'm wondering, if you agree that with me that takes a lot of mental discipline.
I completely agree. I do this exercise when I talk to classrooms sometimes, but you're right. When polar bears are waiting for a seal at a seal hole, they practice what we call still hunting. So they are by the hole, prepared mentally the whole time for when a seal will come up, but they also can barely move a muscle. If they're shifting around at all, the seal is going to hear them and not want to come up to breathe. So they're quiet and they're focused. And we know that they can do this for up to about 24 hours if they need to. So I like to
Wow.
challenge kids to try to sit as still as they can. They usually have like maybe a minute in them, and me too. It's so hard. But polar bears really are incredible at this mental game. Yeah, it's amazing what they can do.
And I'm wondering too about age and experience. We know that the more we practice at something, the better we generally get at it. So how does age and experience affect the hunting skills and success for polar bears?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We know, of course, adult polar bears are more successful than subadults. So the subadults, when they leave their mom at about 2.5 until they're about 5 years old, they're that kind of teenager subadult age. And those bears, yeah, they don't have the experience yet. They're not fully grown. They haven't hunted enough by themselves, so they're going to have a tougher time. As adult bears get older, especially when they're in peak physical condition, they're going to really be the ones that have more opportunities to find food. They can, males particularly being so large, they have more options available to them in types of prey. So they can go for the bigger seals, the bearded seals, when that becomes available. So yeah, being in the peak physical form really helps them. And I will say too, for males, the mating season is for polar bears hugely dependent on physical prowess and age. We know that mating success peaks kind of in the mid to late teens a little bit, maybe early teens depending. But we can see mating success as like a curve for polar bears. Young boys don't have much of a chance. They're going to get beat up pretty badly. And then the older guys, when they're not so strong, they also have little success. So it's really a game of who's in best shape is going to be the ones that pass on their genes.
And then or very soon, you are celebrating International Polar Bear Day. That's February 27. What is it? How will you be celebrating, and how can the public get involved?
Yeah, so we started International Polar Bear Day a long time ago, and it's really built incredible momentum. It's another just great reason to celebrate polar bears, and we timed it for February 27th to roughly coincide with when the females, with their brand new babies in the den, when they're starting to emerge and head out to the sea ice. And a lot of these females haven't eaten for 8 months. So, I mean, that's like a mental game, Olympic sport in itself. Fasting for that long is wild. So these moms are heading out to the ice with their cubs, and we're drawing extra attention to how vulnerable families are in the Arctic. When we talk about changes in polar bear populations, it's really this extra pressure on moms and cubs. It's harder to raise cubs up in some areas to get them into adulthood. And so we're just, yeah, highlighting how important these bears are, how incredible they are, and how people can help. And if people are interested in helping, they can check out our website, polarbearsinternational.org, for ways to get involved, to learn more about the bears, to talk more about polar bears at home, do projects at school, or find other ways that they want to get involved.
Well, thanks so much, Elisa, for helping us learn more about the athleticism and winter adaptations of of polar bears. Every time I go outside and it's cold, I'm a little envious of their ability just to deal with the winter and thrive in it. So thanks again.
Thanks so much.
And thanks again to Elisa McCall from Polar Bears International for her time. Want to learn more about what they do, just head over to polarbearsinternational.org. Lots of great information on their website. And they are our partner for the world famous polar bear cams. And Brian, this is really great footage of just a bear just having a good time. I think, when polar bears do this, they're often hot. And I think they're trying to cool themselves down. They are so well insulated to the cold that on warm days, they often have to increase their surface area that's exposed to the snow and ice so they can maintain their body temperature. So yeah, this is kind of neat footage to see. And we recorded that interview with Elisa before the ice hockey gold medal games, so I didn't have a chance to chime. Elisa, she's Canadian, so she lives north of the border. But yeah, it was really fun hockey games to watch over the last several days, especially from the American perspective. We did get some examples from our audience of people who are wondering or thinking about other animals that would sort of excel at some winter sports. And let's see here, we had April Owl wrote in who said penguins would be good in Olympic winter sports. They certainly be good, again, sliding sports. If they need to slide down a tube or something, penguins would be pretty good at that. Swimming in cold water too, like the Summer Olympics, swimming is those are major events, but we don't have winter swimming, right? The water's just too cold for us. The Antarctic penguins, they would do really well in cold water swimming events for sure. Jack DeBoer also wrote, polar bears, very good swimmers. Yeah, excellent swimmers they are. Jen Lat 38 wrote in and said, our gray and black squirrels have shown that they can ski jump to my bird feeders. So yeah, we're looking for an animal that would do really well in one of those aerial skiing events where you're just launching off something. I think a squirrel would do probably just fine, and it would land without injury, like cats can. And speaking of cats, Brian, Rolling Trouble shared something about her cat.
Yeah, just wanted to give a quick shout out to Rolling Trouble. Thanks for submitting your photo of your cat watching the show. Love to see that, entertaining for humans and felines alike.
Yeah, so thanks again to Rolling Trouble for sharing their photo. Neat to see. And thinking back to the idea of athletes, as I've aged, my admiration for the skill and athleticism of athletes has grown. And I was thinking about that as the Winter Olympics concluded yesterday. Olympians display more than physical skill. They possess a high level of mental discipline and determination. Our non-human neighbors, whether they're wolves or another species, they do the same things that allow them really to thrive under challenging conditions.
And as much as North America remains locked into winter, but many of the birds are beginning their breeding season, which for us means the return of spring. So let's get some updates with this week's Egg Watch.
This is our February 23, 2026 edition of Egg Watch. This is the part of the show where we check on the bird nesting activity of our myriad cameras on explore.org. We're starting with bald eagles because the activity with our bald eagle nests is continuing to increase. With our Channel Islands bald eagles first, looking at the Sauces Canyon nest on Santa Cruz Island. Unfortunately, bad news for Jack and Audacity there. They have laid 3 eggs so far this year. Last time we spoke with you on this program, there was 1 remaining egg in the nest, but since then it has broke. So the last intact egg broke on February 17. It's possible they could have a second clutch, but this pair has never been able to raise a chick when they've been forced to try a second clutch. But we're watching closely, seeing what will happen there. And then also on Santa Cruz Island in the Channel Islands, on the Fraser Point territory with Andor and Cruz, their first egg was laid on February 19, and their second egg was laid just yesterday on February 22. Expected hatch there very late March and early April. And our partner for our Channel Islands cameras for our bald eagle nests is the Institute for Wildlife Studies. And then let's head to the mid-continent of North America. We're going to Iowa, Decorah, Iowa, to be specific, at the fish hatchery there. Hatchery Dad and his new partner, Hatchery Mom number 2, they paired last year after the death of the original Hatchery Mom from lead poisoning. So there was a vacancy in this territory. Hatchery Mom 2, HM2, as she's known for short, moved in pretty quickly. And they are located at a nest that Hatchery Dad and the original Hatchery Mom began building in 2024. The first egg laid at that nest on February 17 and the second egg on February 21. Expected hatch there last week of March. Maybe for that first egg, could be as early as March 25 at the earliest, if I did my math right, but we'll see how that goes there. So more eagles nesting on our cameras every day. Check it out. And finally, let's head to the Southern Hemisphere, because our webcams at Patagonia Azul Provincial Park in Argentina, still some nesting activity going on there. The southern giant petrels, they are going to be with us, I think, until maybe very late March or early April. Lots of petrel chicks still in that colony. They're one of those species that develops very slowly from hatching to fledging stage. So we're looking at them maybe to be there until early April. The chicks will fledge in more than 100 days, sometimes as long as 130 days with that species. And then we're going to say goodbye to imperial cormorants, at least as part of our Egg Watch segment, because I think all of their chicks have fledged from the colony. Still lots of great stuff to see on this cam. It's pretty, a variety of different birds. Sometimes you'll get to see sea lions hanging out in the colony as well. But their chicks, I think, have fledged. They hatched in early December, and they fledge after about 2 months. So congratulations to all of the imperial cormorant parents who worked really hard to get their chicks to an age where they can fledge. If you want to watch these nests and more, you can do it any day or every day and at any time at explore.org. And one of the great things about live nature cams is that they allow us to travel from winter to summer or to a different continent or ecosystem anytime that you want. Our partners at Africam are always seeing interesting wildlife and fascinating behavior. So let's get an update from them about an animal that is rarely seen in daylight.
We caught this sighting on the Kalahari live camera out here on the Makadikari salt pans in Botswana. And look at this, an aardwolf out in the early evening. This is a rare glimpse of these magnificent creatures because these little guys are usually active at night. So seeing one so close to sunset while there's still light is really special. Even better, it's catching a drink. Aardwolves are really well adapted to the semi-arid environments they thrive in, so they don't usually need to drink water. They meet most of their moisture requirements with their unusual diet. But hey, if water is available, they will take advantage of it. They're the smallest member of the Hyaenidae family, but instead of evolving strong jaws and teeth capable of crushing bones like their cousins, they've given up the brute force of their lineage in favor of long, sticky tongues to fill a different kind of niche. They almost exclusively eat termites, scooping up to 300,000 of them in a single night. Sometimes they'll snack on maggots or other soft insects too. Even though they're mostly nocturnal, aardwolves can be flexible, changing their movements based on the temperature and the availability of their favorite food. This early evening activity is a perfect example of that. Aardwolf means earth wolf in Afrikaans. They live in underground burrows, often borrowing abandoned ones from aardvarks or porcupines. And here's another sweet tidbit. Aardwolves are monogamous, staying with the same mate for life, with babies usually born in June or July. So there you have it, a rare early evening aardwolf caught live on Africam. Keep watching because these shy little insect eaters don't show up like this very often.
And thanks to our partners at Africam for that information. Brian, I don't know about you, but I know a lot more about aardwolves just now than I did just 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, before this clip, I didn't even know they existed, so I learned quite a bit, but they're pretty cool.
And we're really excited for our newest webcams on explore.org. These are also in Africa. They just launched this morning, and they will be fascinating to watch. So we want to, as we head towards the end of our program, we want to tell everybody to go watch bonobos. These are located at the Lola Ya Bonobo Sanctuary in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Bonobos are one of the great ape species. They're one of the species, like chimpanzees, that are most closely related to us. They were once classified as a subspecies of chimpanzee. We know now that they are a unique species with unique habits and cultures. Friends of bonobos Friends of the Bonobo, excuse me, they are our partner for these webcams. They are a nonprofit organization dedicated to saving bonobos in the rainforests that bonobos call home. They rescue and rehab bonobos who have been victims of illegal wildlife trading, and their goal is to rewild them and to stop the root causes of threats to bonobos. So at the sanctuary, each rescued baby bonobo is paired with a human surrogate mother before they are introduced to the larger group. So you'll sometimes see the surrogate moms on the cameras, as well as you'll see the larger mixed group of older juveniles and adults on the cameras. And we hope to have an interview with Friends of Bonobos for an upcoming edition of More to Explore. And we want to share, of course, more about the effort to install webcams at this sanctuary because it was a logistically difficult endeavor. So if you want to watch the bonobos right now, do so at explore.org/bonobos.
I was super excited to see these cams, getting 2 cams there, especially the nursery, watching the clips. It's absolutely adorable to watch them swinging around. But as far as upcoming events that we have coming up, we do have our regular shows every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Pacific. We have the Africam show if you feel like going on a live virtual safari. And on Thursdays, we have our Wild Moments show, seeing all the best highlights from the Africam cameras. And then, of course, March 9th will be our next More to Explore episode. And just believe me when I say that we have a lot more live events scheduled and in the books coming your way. And Mike, we do have one final announcement that we've been hiring for a job, and I believe the deadline is today.
That's right. Yeah. So we got actually 2 jobs that you can apply for. The application deadline is today. So we're looking really to hire a version of me who specializes in birds. So if you want to work with me, work with our explore.org team, you want to interpret the bird life on our cameras, you can apply to that job. And then we're looking for a writer, editor, naturalist as well to work alongside the bird naturalist and myself to expand our interpretation of the wonderful world of wildlife that we see on explore.org. So again, today's the last day to submit applications. Go to explore.org/jobs if you are interested in that. And thanks to everybody who has applied. We will be looking through those applications shortly.
Awesome. And thank you everybody for joining us today. That is the rest of our show. We're going to leave you here with our sleepy wolves. But thank you again for joining us today. And of course, I want to give a special thank you to our moderators and camera operators, and of course, my co-host, Mike Fitz. And join us next time for another episode of More to Explore on March 9. And until then, happy exploring.